Hello and welcome to Champagne Channeling. Happy Friday. Today I have my dear friend Amy from Soulfully Grounded. She is my champagne drinking buddy. She is a Reiki master and she also does breath work amongst many other things that get you aligned with your body and health. I'm super excited to bring her on the podcast. She's local to the Northern Colorado area. I've seen her and worked with her myself. I couldn't recommend her enough. Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Me too. I love you. You look beautiful. It's been a long time since we've got to hang out and have champagne. Are you enjoying a glass of wine with me today?
Yeah. Cheers.
Gin. Okay, getting after it.
I'm like, we have gin and tonic today. And honestly, like in full transparency, I was just telling Jenny, I'm kind of on, I'll call it an up leveling of like a healing health journey. And so I've gone alcohol free, not necessarily by choice for a bit. And so I have explored some really great, like non-alcoholic drinks these days because I love to drink because I love the taste. I don't always drink for escape. And I really missed it. And so it's been a fun, you get to try on new things.
Yeah, I love that for you. And I do have interest in stuff like that because it is sometimes about the luxury. And I have told you personally how many times I will get a wine glass and pour just sparkling water and make it pretty because I like the ritual. I like the celebration. I like the prettiness. And it's not always about drinking. So I love that you're in that space. My husband is a non-drinker. So I cheers anyway. We can cheers with whatever. I do have a bottle of champagne I'm going to open. I mentioned I was like, I don't know if I'm going to, but it's cold, it's here, and it is Friday.
It is. And it's like a toasty, warm summer day here. So yes, please do.
It is. So what have you been up to in your business? What is going on? I know the last post, the reel that you did, I loved about the, somatic healing and the nervous system. And I'm just always really, really educated by your content.
So I think that's one of the greatest benefits of breath work is learning to regulate our nervous system. Mm-hmm. And because we live in an intense society, it's very busy. We have very full lives. We balance a lot, add on things like a pandemic, all of this stuff. And our nervous system, I always say it rides so high. So I'm like, we're just always filled up. We're always feeling that stress, that anxiousness, that on to the next thing. And one, it causes us to not really breathe. Unlike if you take a moment to think about your breath and how you breathe, most of us breathe these really short, shallow breaths from our chest. And when we take a moment, honestly, a lot of my clients just taking a full, deep belly breath and filling up your belly and fully expanding your lungs, it takes them a few breaths to get that full expansion because it's almost an abnormal feeling in our body. And I always say, throw on top of that, like we're a 6-pack ab society. What do we do when we take a picture? We suck in our guts, right? And when you suck in, you're shortening your breath and you're keeping your breath really short and up here in your chest. And so our nervous systems are always in overdrive. And so with learning to slow down and take those deep breaths and learning to just breathe for 5-10 minutes a day and doing that breath work and allowing our nervous system to calm down and regulate, over time, it increases what was called the window of tolerance, like how we tolerate stress and chaos in the external world, because we don't get to control things that happen. We don't get to control the accident that just happened that's going to make us late. We don't get to control, somebody who shows up late for a meeting. We don't get to control all these things. We get to control how we respond to them. And so learning to down-regulate our nervous system using our breath allows us to increase that window of tolerance. So we're not easily, triggered and thrown off and emotional and overreacting to the day-to-day stressors that we don't get to control.
Ugh, how I know everybody listening is like like breathing in, like feeling yourself. Like I'm like, how can I listen to you and not want to just be like, oh. And recently I've had two conversations. One, I was on the golf course and somebody mentioned how much I sigh, and it comes off like I'm annoyed. Like I'm always annoyed. Like, but I think I hold my breath. And then my trainer, actually, we were talking about it yesterday, and I hold my breath all the time. And I really do think that it's part of a nervous system sickness. I don't know. Like, I'm not giving myself the free tool, air, to calm down, settle in. And then I'm holding my breath and I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people do that. And I love listening to, it's funny to sometimes listen to people on
oh,
podcasts who get really talking, because you'll hear them talk, 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 and then they, and they like gasp in for air because they're just in this such like kind of an like energetic flow. They're in flow, but they're like so intense into it that they literally forget to breathe. And
yes,
you can hear them gasp for air. And I'm
yes.
like, oh my gosh, slow it down. Like, breathe. And honestly, too, I've just learned both in my breathwork training and in Reiki, a lot of times sighing or yawning is an energetic release. It is energetically resetting the body. And it is like letting go of like the energy, that it's like this energetic release that we don't always like know we're doing. It's this unconscious habit, but our body knows what it needs. Our body's
Yeah.
taking care of us. Our body's like, it like sighs for us. It like yawns, it resets, it releases that energy of whatever it's hanging on to in that moment. And so that's one of the things. It's like our body knows what it needs. It just does its thing. We don't always like, we sometimes become consciously aware of it. We're like, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for taking care of me. And I don't even know it.
Yeah. And you do so good at this. Even the videos you post of breathing in the morning, of your journal practice, of all of your daily commitments, you're consistent. You get up and see the sunrise. And even those posts, which may or may not seem small to you, influence me so much. So I thank you for that, because your dedication, and maybe it's the Virgo, I have no idea, but it really helps this like water, water, water sign over here, because I am not consistent. Me and the moon have like a rodeo freaking every damn month. Like it's just chaos. But I love that. And when I see you breathe, it's an energy exchange. Like I'm seeing you breathe, and then I'm like, reminded, breathe, reminded, breathe. And so you're doing the work, and then it's trickling out even when people aren't in session with you. And I just want to thank you for that, because it is making an impact.
You are so welcome. And honestly, I'm like a true believer in practicing what I preach and the
Yes.
embodiment of what I teach. And so one, it has become a tool for me every single day in getting myself grounded in the morning. And I am one who really, really strongly believes in having some kind of ritual devotion in that morning. Because as I always tell people, I'm like, when you're just flying out of bed and you're just throwing yourself into the world, because I do deal with Reiki and the energetics of the world, I'm like, you become a punching bag to your day. So you're just taking hit after hit energetically from your kids, from your boss, on this, because you threw yourself out into the world and you're not really grounded.
Yeah.
Versus, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. As too many people get caught up in like, what do I do? What does this person do? That person do? They think they need to do all these things and it needs to be an hour long and all that stuff. If that works for you and you have the time, fantastic. I mean, sometimes 5-10 minutes just to get grounded and take a few deep breaths or journal, or like, honestly, the sunrise for me for a long time was just very grounding. It was that like reminder of that gift of the new day. Like just seeing that wide expansive horizon was that reminder of possibility. Like I just loved and like just needed that sunrise every morning. But that was like my way to ground in the day before I enter the world, before I enter everybody else's energy. So I remember who I am and I come back home to myself before I start the day. And so that way I am not such a punching bag to everything that happens in the day and in the world.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm more of a sunset girl
Yeah.
because the morning is just I don't know. But it's an intimate time. It's such an intimate time because it is just you. It's what I call, when I work with people, is their default setting. And like when you really get to know the soul within and really get to unapologetically accept all facets of yourself, that is your time with you, and it's sacred and it's intimate and it's lovely. And then like you said, being a punching bag, like that's all just like energy, and being a lot of times an empath, and your auric field is too big and you're out of your body, and it's just, you're at the whim of the day, like you're saying. I have this, just kind of came to me, and I've realized recently that I have some listeners that are new to a lot of these concepts. And so what is Reiki? I just think that that is something that's used a lot and people don't really understand what it is. Do you
Yeah.
mind?
And yeah, I always laugh amongst like Reiki. Reiki is life force energy. So, and that is what it literally breaks down to by definition when you break up the words. And it's like, it is life force energy. And so it's accessible by all when you get attuned to it. And it is that like connection to, you know, the the higher energy of the world. And that energy, as a Reiki master or somebody who's attuned to that Reiki, I just become that channel for that life force energy. And that energy can be used to balance other people's energy, to clear out the chakras, to balance the body, to help heal and assist in the healing of illness and ailments and pain. And for a lot of people, it's very relaxing. It puts them, their body in this state of like deep relaxation as we start to kind of like clear out all of that noise and start to bring their body back into alignment and back into balance. And as I am so grateful that Fort Collins, there's a group of Reiki practitioners, and we get together monthly and we do a Reiki share. And so we all give and receive Reiki to each other to help take care of ourselves energetically. And they were talking about like somebody new came and we were introducing ourselves and how we get started. And I'll never forget, my mentor who introduced me to it said Reiki is the gateway drug for a lot of spiritual people. And it is, because you kind of get this interest, and everybody there laughed and like, oh my gosh, it so is, because it's kind of like what a lot of us start with when we are curious about energy and our chakras and we want to work with that energy. Is Reiki is like this great kind of easy way to start. And it's this nurturing, healing energy. And then once you get in, then I'm like, oh boy, then you get into all kinds of other things.
You know what's so funny, Amy, is so I don't know. I mean, I know what Reiki is. I've had Reiki. I've had Reiki by you. When I was a little hungover, or that was like the dumbest time. That was when we first met, and I cannot even believe, I'm so thankful we're good friends now, but I can't even believe you wanted to be my friend after that day. Like, I was so weird. I just was so weird. But okay, so anyway, so my intro to spirituality, like official, was mediumship, which is like, I want to say it's more of like the top tier. Like, I'm terrified of mediumship.
You're
and
like, so that's what was so
yeah, like people are like, wait, what? And I think it's because I put spirituality in a box, and I judged a lot of it, not harshly, but just opinions. I mean, I grew up 12 minutes from Boulder, Colorado. So you can imagine what I thought spirituality meant. And it was like, not, there was no glamour in spirituality back in the 90s. Like it was grungy, and it was drugs, and I just had this different perception. And so I kind of shied away from it. And I think I was probably doing some sort of Reiki when I was behind the chair doing hair, because people always would, not always, but I had people ask me if I was doing energy work, and I'm like, no, like, no. And then my mom is in the spiritual industry, I guess you can say. And she would always be like, you need to ground yourself. but I didn't know what that meant. It actually annoyed me, that statement, like, you need to ground yourself. It's like, I'm fucking here. Like, I don't know, but I think what was happening is I was getting a lot of tools that were going to assist me in whatever area that I applied. And now working with clients, it is like, you have to kind of have this like tool belt. And some people might need breath work and mediumship or Reiki and acupuncture, or, there's all of these things, but being able to tune into the body, which starts with Reiki, you will know. And so I don't know how I bypassed all the like baby steps, but COVID gave me the ambition and confidence to just be like, I want to sign up for mediumship. And then I ended up being, pretty decent at it. And here I am. And then that's how we met, which was great.
Which is so funny, because that's like how, COVID is what really, mine, like COVID, like was so great for me, because that's where I realized I really wanted to offer this gift to other people, because I was attuned to Reiki years ago. And I just did it out of pure curiosity, because I wanted to learn more about the energy. So I've been attuned for it for years upon years. And I just never did anything with it besides on myself and just the curiosity of it. And then, out of COVID.
You are so grounded. You are so grounded. Like, us together is such a great, awesome experience.
Yes, but that's because I'm like Virgo, and like I am like so up in the Virgo energy. I am like the earth. I am like, I need things to like tip me off of my like grounded rock all the time, because I am like, I have so many of my signs are in Virgo, and I am like this earth, like
yes,
box bean.
My nervous system like regulates just sitting next to you. I'm like, oh, what, like, are we napping? Just kidding. I drew a card for us today, and it's funny because, you get familiar with your decks. And when I draw for me, I draw like the same 4 cards for like a season. And then, I shift into something else. And I don't recall seeing this card. And I've had this deck for like 15 years, and it's the Goddess deck by Doreen Virtue. And it's Una, Goddess Una. Easy does it. There's no need to hurry or force things to happen. Everything is occurring in perfect timing. And I thought that was so like your energy. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like 100%. Like, chill out, be here, trust, breathe. And this is also why I invited you to be one of the facilitators at Jouvois Retreat in September, which is less than 2 months away. I can't wait. And you are doing the Align Day with Chelsea Hollum. And you guys are all about getting grounded and present and in the body and breath work. And I am like, yeah, I don't want to teach that day. Can you give the listeners a little sneak peek of what you have in store or anything you want to share?
So that day, it's interesting. So I'm going to be leading what I call a breathwork journey. And so that is doing breathwork for a prolonged period of time. Mm-hmm. And side note, like when I do breathwork, because I am attuned to Reiki, I always bring Reiki energy in to breathwork sessions, because I love how that those energies meld, and like how I can like drop and bring in that Reiki to help move and clear blocks and move energy, because that is the point of breath work, is to move energy and move emotion. And so I love to meld those two. So a lot of times I call mine Reiki infused breath work, because I'm like, if I have the energy and access, like why not channel that at the same time? But so we're going to be doing breath work that day. And breath work is all about bringing ourselves like into our bodies and out of our head. And there's so many forms of breath work. And, breath work is becoming more and more popular and trendy. And at first calling it trendy, I was like, made me cringe. But I was like, you know what? If this is a trend that like yoga became kind of a trend, meditation became a trend. And I'm like, these are good trends to have. Yeah. So if it's a trend, God bless it, let it be a trend.
Yes.
And so there's so many different forms of breath work out there. Most often when you say breath work, people think of Wim Hof. He became very, very popular for breath work. A lot of people do his breath work, and that is a great way. They're shorter sessions. It's a great way to tap into your breath, to learn to down-regulate your nervous system, be kind of conscientious of the feelings within your body when you
Mhm.
get still and when you start to breathe, because you do start to move energy. And then the breathwork journeys that I lead are longer. So because they're longer, we breathe for 25, 30 minutes using specific breath patterns and setting an intention which we want this journey to lead and guide us. And when we breathe for that amount of time, we reduce like the CO2 in our body and we bring in more oxygen and more life force energy into our bodies. And so not only do we start to release and shift emotion and things that are trapped in our body, it takes us, we get out of that structured mind and we get into like this euphoric meditative state, and we connect more wholly to ourselves, to our
Mhm.
soul. I feel like this was a thing, this is like such a great tool for people who do struggle with meditation, struggle with connecting to like spirit, like them sitting there, they're like, am I doing it? Am I not? Because the structured mind, our thinking mind is like, gets like, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? Am I here? Is this me talking? Is this spirit talking? Like, who? And you start getting that. When you start to breathe, like, because it changes the physical and like the physical state of our being, you get into that state where it's easier to access that higher realm, your higher self. You kind of get into this like more meditative euphoric state that clears out all of like those blocks and limiting beliefs and starts to rewire that brain. And so I feel like it's been one, it was a great thing for me because I was raised like we didn't talk about feelings. Feelings feelings did not exist. We didn't really talk about feelings. I was not a good feeler. I was not a crier. I was not anything because I didn't know how and what like to feel that.
Yeah.
And breathwork was that thing of once I started, I realized how many emotions and feelings I was holding in my body. And how breathwork allowed me to be like, oh my gosh, I feel this. And like, as my mentor, who I trained under, Sam Skelly, says, if you want to feel better, you need to become a better feeler,
Mhm.
because it's like learning to like feel those emotions, but also letting them go and not identifying with them. Feelings are just energy and motion. And
Yeah.
so it's just like allowing those to rise and fall. And so at the retreat we are, because the day before is going to be more about past lives and all of that, and then the second day is going to be more about your present, like who you are today, and like being in alignment with the present moment. And breathwork really can help you become present. And I really got into breathwork because honestly, saying I'm grounded now and stuff, I like used to appear very grounded, but I always felt like I was a duck, like on the top of the water and to the surface level of people. I was like floating along. I had it all together. I was great. And then under the water or inside, I know I dealt with a lot of anxiety and a lot of overwhelm. And I didn't know that anxiety was not something we talked about in my house as a kid. I didn't know. And all of those things that I felt that I had never dealt with. And so when meditation, I would try it. Meditation felt worse because when I sat still and got quiet, the rush of everything like would overtake me. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't sit still. I got to be moving. I got to be on the go because, and that was like, I avoided yoga forever too, because it was the stillness, because
Yeah.
I was scared and I did not know what to do with all of the feelings and thoughts and emotions that would come in. I didn't know. And so I
Remember
was
when
like,
we first started talking, and I thought that you had Gemini energy because I could feel that buzziness, like Gemini in your North Node or something. Like there was like Gemini in your chart that was undercurrent, like it's like zzz. And then we talked about there were certain videos where I could tell where you were talking from your mind or like your
yes,
head or your gut. And like the ones that when you were talking from your root and your gut, I was like, ah. And then the ones that you were up here, it was like noisy. And it's just funny because I feel like that is part of your journey and that will never go away because it also is like I think of a lawnmower where you pull the
yep,
thing to start it. It's like that gets you going and then you go really fast and then you got to settle in and integrate. It's like, the wind up toy.
yep, yep.
Yep. Um,
But it's like my default, I mean, it's that
yeah.
like battle, and it's still like that journey of And that's where even in day-to-day life, this is where breath work has become so valuable to me, and just like noticing and being so much more aware of how my body feels, and actually like the noticing the nuances that occur within. And when I start to feel, we all know what that rise of anxiousness or that rise of stress feels like. I'm remembering to breathe, because
Yes.
my tagline is always like, your breath, it's always available, it's always free, just tap in.
Yep.
You don't need to see somebody, you don't need to like, pay for it. Like, it's here. All you have to
Mm-hmm.
do is remember to use it. And
Mm-hmm.
even I just got a necklace that said inhale, exhale, because I'm like, this is my reminder to myself too, to breathe.
Yeah. Breathe. And what you said earlier about you're not your emotions, in my spirit led life program that I'm just thoroughly enjoying teaching and love so much. It's a constant reminder that when you say I am angry,
Mm,
you're labeling yourself. I feel angry. I
yes.
am a jealous person, or I feel jealous about this. I am sad, or I am feeling sad. And so everything needs to be identified, and honored and allowed to release. Like, a lot of times when I work out, I still will just start purging. Thank God my trainer loves me, because I will just start talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And it's because I'm opening up different areas of my body where energy is stuck. And so energy sticks to us. Our body is our GPS. We know this when we do this work, but I think this is the biggest reminder is like spirit uses your body to communicate. And this is how we become one. Your spirit first, and then you have this body. It's temporary. How is it going to communicate with you? The body. And that's your job to learn how to listen. And we do get numb sometimes.
Oh
That's
yeah,
just
absolutely.
experience.
I know. And I'll be honest, when people say like, my anxiety, and it's like they use it as an identity. And I always just like have like this like moment of compassion to them, because I'm like, that's like their identity,
Yeah.
and they kind of cling to that. And I'm like, you aren't anxiety. Like, anxious is an emotion. It's a
Mm-hmm.
feeling that gets to come and go, and we all feel it, some more than others. But kind of like using that as identity helps keep you stuck, and it keeps that emotion stuck within you.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, in breath work, we always talk about like breath work is a great tool in addition to, mindset work, talk therapy, because I'm a believer that like mindset work on its own doesn't work long term,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
you can change how you think, you can change your thoughts about it, you can say all the affirmations you want, but all of that still lives in the body. Your
Mm-hmm.
body remembers the stress, your body remembers the resentment, the body remembers all of that. And until you release those emotions that are being held and have been held probably in your body for a long time, like, it always relapses, it always comes back. And so it's kind of like a big package. It's like, yeah, it's like change, work on your mindset, work on how you think and perceive things, but also let all of that stuff that hangs in the body for all these years from all of the situations you've been in and the thought patterns you've been in, you got to release that from the body too, because it all
Yeah.
lives there.
And sometimes that feels like rage. Like it literally feels like, insane things that you would never tell anybody. Like, I married the wrong person. My dad is an asshole. I hate my sister. I'm ugly, blah, blah, blah. Like the meanest things you could say about everyone in your life and yourself. And it's purging, because if it stays in, it stays in the shadow. And so that's why I'm such a fan of Rage on the Page. And I like to, like Ernest Hemingway said, write drunk, edit sober. And, I know that he was like a severe alcoholic and has some issues, but if he was still alive, I may be his second wife or sixth wife if I wasn't married. I love him. I love his work. I really relate to him. But write drunk, edit sober it's saying give yourself permission to say anything and everything. And then when you're in a clear mind, clean it up. So I like to say, go to bed and like vent in the evening and then reassess in the morning. And so
Yeah.
allow yourself space to purge all of it, mean thoughts, angry thoughts, because if you don't, they linger. They don't go away. They don't dissolve. They
No.
stay. And it's your thought, it's your level of intimacy, and nothing you can think is wrong. What's wrong is what the human body and mind do with that, that could be potentially wrong. But the thoughts aren't wrong. They need to come out. And the people that
Oh, yeah.
suppress them the most usually are the ones that end up behaving not so great.
Right. Because it comes out when you don't really want it to. Because I always say,
Yeah.
like, you're holding all of that. I'm always like, the nervous system is like riding right at your shoulders. And when you're holding all of that and you're trying to keep a lid on, it takes one thing and then you explode. And that's really not like where you wanted to send that energy, but like your body can't hold it anymore.
Yes. And
I
that's
always say,
that's
like,
the alcohol. Like we've talked about this too with alcohol. Like, you know, anything that is going to allow you to disconnect from yourself, realize that everything that you've pushed down, avoided, or numbed is going to then have access. And so if you are somebody that doesn't like how you act when you drink, it's probably because you've suppressed a lot of things. And if, you know, the more emotional you are, the more sensitive you are, the more in tune with your feelings you are, you're probably going to be able to manage a few drinks better than a person that is not. Now, I'm not pro alcohol or anti alcohol or anything. I think everybody has a relationship with vices. And the problem isn't the vice. The problem is how you deal with feelings, emotion, your communication with your body, and then where you numb, where you disconnect. It could be shopping, it could be gossip, it could be so many things.
oh yeah. I'm like, there's so many ways that people do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's because, like, I feel like they don't know what to do with those emotions. Like, we're not always taught from a young
Oh,
age,
we're
like,
shamed. We're
how
the
to like
opposite.
feel and like what to do with that. So we're like, I don't know what to do with this. So like,
Yes.
let's just
Yep.
keep it down there. And
Yeah.
but that's also how so many illnesses arise and stuff like that because of so much of the stuff that you keep trapped within your body.
I do
And
agree
that's
with that.
and that's one of the things too. I mean, as I told Jenny, I'm like, I also want to demystify breathwork journeys today.
Yes.
Because I feel like it was funny, like, because Jenny had sent me and like some random Instagram, and she's like, I don't know about breathwork. Like, this is what I keep seeing on social media, and I don't know they want to sign up for that because breathwork, there's so many intentions and so many ways to utilize breathwork. And there are a lot of like social media and people putting on social media, people doing breathwork and having like very like
I'll say who it is. It's Tim
crying.
Morrison, right? Tim
Yeah.
Morrison. Yeah,
And there's many others because I
it's
sit
so
in
many.
that row.
And what you
like,
see is people like screaming. You see grown men looking like they're having like childbirth. You see like people holding them down, and like it looks like torture. And so when Amy first started talking about breath, I don't know, a year ago or something, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I am ready for that because I don't know. It looked terrifying. And
right.
she just had to laugh. And she's like, oh my gosh, Jenny, like there's so many facets. There's so many levels. And I am not going to like, hey, let's go in and completely like dig up all the bones.
And that's what I want people to know when you see that. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't want to say that like there is a place for that. And most of these people that you see this, they're going to highly trained facilitators that can hold space for this. And they're going in to release deep, heavy trauma that's been in their body for a very long time.
And for like days. Like it's not like you have one session. Like
no, they work with these people for many sessions, and building that trust and building not only the trust with the facilitator, building that trust within your own body to release and face some of these. I mean, like I said, these are for some people who are dealing with some deep wounds and trauma and stuff like that has been living in their body for a long time. And so when that comes out, yes, the body is releasing that in so many ways. And at the same time, yes, for some people, it is emotional. But at the same time, I'll do breathwork sessions where we set the intention to connect to our higher self. Connect to this next version of ourself, these goals, these dreams we have, and the embodiment of it. Because I always say, like, goals, dreams without embodiment is just another to-do list. You're just like checking the box to get there, but it's just another to-do list.
Yeah.
And you're not actually feeling to your core this person that you're becoming, this dream that you're bringing to life, whether it's in business, whether it's your personal life. It's like so many times when I lead these breathwork sessions, like people end and you're like, oh, wait, like this hasn't happened yet because I feel so deeply this is who I am, and like this next version of who I'm becoming, and this dream and this vision coming to life. They feel the embodiment in their body, and it's like this beautiful thing, and it rewires the brain and it clears out these perceived beliefs they've had that aren't true, and it makes their dreams possible, and they can feel it now, and they feel that in their body. And so it can be this like beautiful, like amazing euphoric feeling and happy feeling at the end. It doesn't always, like I said, everything I feel like in the spiritual world is intention based. What is the intention you're setting behind a session? What is the intention for this? If the intention is to, heal deep rooted child abuse and like whatever, yeah, it might be some of these things you're seeing. If the intention is to like totally connect with this higher version of yourself in your dreams, whatever, it might be so fun and so light and so freeing. And you just like get up and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing. I feel like I'm floating on cloud nine.
I told you after I had my first experience at a retreat of my breathwork experience, and I literally thought I did it wrong because I had such a beautiful experience. And as you know, and I'm sure those listening, I definitely have a childlikeness about me. I have a playfulness. I'm very in tune with my inner child. And so there's this like kind of effervescence, like let's go twirl our skirts in the yard type of situation sometimes. And I went into this breath work and it was group led. And I'm not kidding you. I was like Snow White in the forest, and all of the eyes were like that scene where all the eyes were in this forest, like looking. And then all of a sudden this knowing came, this like wisdom. And it was like, you are scared of them, but they're hiding because they're scared of you. And this is the same way humans respond when they're not familiar with the light. So as a light worker, you have to take on the knowing and the courage to shine, even though it looks like everyone is in the darkness looking and giving you dirty looks and thinking you're insane and scary. But really, they are little bunnies that are like, I'm curious and I just look scary because I'm over here. And the minute the download was, the minute I go try to walk towards any of them, they're going to retreat into the darkness, but it's not really, this was just the way it was shown to me. So I just have to stay still, and then they will come when it feels safe and when they are curious enough. And so really, when you decide to work with the light, it's about being still and knowing that people are going to look at you weird. People are going to judge you, but it's not because they're bad. It's because they're scared. And so I came out of that just being like, I need to be more still. Like, I don't need to be chasing people around and being like, oh my gosh, this is the way it is. And and sometimes I still have that little girl in me that's like, I really want approval. I really want you to accept me. I really want you to believe what I believe, so I know I'm on the right path. But I also have this higher self that's like, well, we call her Vanessa, my ego too. That's like, I fucking know I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right path and I feel really confident, but I'm both. And so I have to constantly nurture both and do on this retreat, coming up with some vulnerable aspects. That's what was brought to me with breath work. And I was like, I think I did it wrong. Like, I didn't cry. I literally was Snow White, and like, I got some information, but and then when I told you about it, you're like, no, like, that's what it is. Like, it's for you, for what you need in the moment.
Exactly. And I honestly have so many business owners, entrepreneurs, people, because like, who are seeking clarity. They're seeking clarity on their next step, or they feel really stuck. Because if you think about it, how often do we like start on an idea and then we like just loop the same idea, and we're trying to think of something else or something different. We're like, because there's more to this. I don't know what it is. Like this
imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And you just sit in this loop and you can't get out of your head. And so a lot of people come and for breath work, and they gain so much clarity because you kind of open up and you clear out and you get out of that structured mind, and they get these downloads and they get these ideas and they get this like newfound path, and they're like off to the races. Like, I just had one and she's like, oh my gosh, within a week, she's like, I'm like drowning in sticky notes because I have all these ideas. I know what these next master classes are going to be. I know what my next program's going to be. Like, it just all like kind of came together and made sense because we get out of that structured mind, because we all kind of get in these looping thoughts or looping ideas, even of like, okay, I'm going to create this program. It's going to be this. And you're like, but what else? And then you're like, I don't know. I can't get out of this same loop. And so a lot of people come, just like you said, it's like this clarity of like, what is your mission? Like, what's your new mission? Like, how do you show up? And it, like I said, there's so many different intentions, and it doesn't always have to be some of the social media posts.
Well, and I just want people to have clarity, because I always try to, like, as we're talking, view or listen to this from the viewer's ears. And so somebody might be thinking like, okay, breath work, how, like, I can just do that on my own. And I'm just going to tell you, yes, you absolutely can. But there's an amount of oxygen in a pattern that helps with the nervous system, and that does more. And then you go to Amy, just like you would go to any therapist, and the presence, the energy she holds, the guiding that she does, that is why you have a one-on-one accountability. Like I said, when I sit next to her, whether we're hanging out socially or in session, I immediately just feel my body kind of like relax into itself, because Amy has that power. But when you are starting out or curious, Amy, do you have any recommendations for people that are like, I'm curious, I just don't know if I want a session yet, but like, how do I breathe right? Or, the way that's going to get somebody on the path to wanting to know more.
Right. And there's honestly so many apps now out there. Like, I mean, I did the Pause Breathwork facilitator training, and Pause has an app that has, 5-minute, 10-minute, like 20-minute longer ones. Othership is my new favorite one that has just variations, because even though you're exactly right, even though I'm a facilitator, even though I could like guide myself, it's so nice. Like, there is a different level of like surrendering and being fully in it when I'm guided. And I still do breathwork sessions, like being held by my friends who are breathwork facilitators, because I always, I can listen to recordings. I have all the recordings I could ever want to go on journeys, but I still, at least once or twice a month, breathe with friends, and like, whether it's virtually, whether it's in person, because there is something to be said about that, like energetic exchange and being held by somebody, and somebody who is there guiding you. Because when I lead a breathwork session, it's usually about 10 minutes of just like a grounding meditation, just getting people grounded, letting their body relax, and kind of getting present in the moment. And then we start a specific breath pattern. And contrary to what we want to do in our everyday life, which is breathe more through our nose than our mouth, a lot of these are breathing more through our mouth, because it is bringing in more oxygen and it's activating our system to release those emotions and to get out of that structured mind and get into our body more so. And as I watch my breathers, and I guide and cue them intuitively to help move energy and help shift them through that whole session. Because it can be, like I said, I can usually sense just through the Reiki and through just my intuitive nature when they're like kind of stuck. And when I see energy sticking, it's like cueing them with just some verbal cues sometimes of like how to continue to like encourage them, support them to release emotions, or to that connect greater to their higher selves, create that greater connection.
Yeah.
And then bringing people out, because you are in such like, if I just like after that was like sit up, you'd fall over. Because you are like lightheaded, you're in this euphoric space, and it's like bringing you back slowly to where we are, to the space. Like, look at the walls, focus on a picture, come back to here. And so it's like those journeys. And so, yes, of course, it's like anything you can try to go it alone, it's like anything. Like, that's why there's so many coaches, because do most things coaches teach you, you can Google and find for yourself. Yes, but is there something to be said for that, like human interaction and somebody personally helping you with things? Absolutely. And so there are ways, like I said, of getting, going on. I'm sure there's a billion things on YouTube and that kind of stuff, and being able to kind of start to tap into that. But then there's always that space for, I feel like, being held energetically by somebody else and being guided and knowing that you're supported in that.
Yeah. And I always tell people under every trigger is a truth. So we all have trauma. Gabby Bernstein says it really beautifully. We have big T's and small T's. It's part of who we are. There's nobody without trauma. It's not bad. The trauma feels like a bad word to some people. It's not. It's just part of who we are.
Yeah.
And it's like freckles. Some people have more freckles than others. Like it's just part of the map. But what happens when you do breath work and work with Reiki and stuff like that is you can talk about something that's triggered you, and we know that there's a truth under that, but you still might be in the storyline that you can't find the truth, and energetically opening up the door to where you can see what really is activating you. That's why I love this work so much, is it's a pathway to finding out your truth and honoring yourself and what's really going on, and not shaming yourself for, I have anxiety, I've been triggered, I overreacted, et cetera, et cetera. And I spent a lot of my life apologizing. I actually had a label in middle school by a dad, one of my friend's dads, that called me the sorry girl. And I still struggle with it. My husband will like not even acknowledge me anymore when I say sorry, because he just has zero patience. But that is me always being shameful about my triggers or my traumas, or just, I don't know, breathing. Like I always was sorry for something, but I had to work through that. And I had to work through that by getting really familiar with my nervous system, breathing, energetics.
Yeah. And I always tell people, I mean, at the end of the day, it's easy. I mean, there's varying opinions, and I think it's funny like that we have different opinions, whether it's 6 breaths, 8 breaths, or 10.
Yeah.
But like, doing like 5 to 10 deep breaths, like it's amazing what that does. And I just love it because not only it's changing the physical state of our being because of the exchange of oxygen and what that does to our body and our nervous system and all the science behind that. But if you just start to like focus on your breath, how you slow your mind down. And I always tell people, I'm like, think about all those times when we're like feeling triggered, we're feeling stressed, we're feeling whatever. If we just took a few deep breaths, like how different our life would be, how often we wouldn't have to apologize for behaviors we wish we didn't do, or the email and the tone of it that we sent because we're like, shh, on it. I'm like, I tell people in business, I'm like, before you like, when you feel yourself like mad typing on the keyboard, like take a few deep breaths. Like, is this really the tone? Is this really what you want to say? Like how that can like just ground us. And I'm like,
everything.
I'm like, you don't always have to make it hard. It doesn't have to be an app. It doesn't have to be whatever. I'm like, just like as simple as that, it's amazing what that can do. Even laying in bed, if you struggle with falling asleep, like just taking some deep breaths and like really letting the exhale be really long and slow, that like slows our nervous system down. It slows our mind down. It like allows everything to kind of ground and settle.
Yes. Tell me really quick, what is I can't even, like the like people that get all high and like freak out on breath work, like drugs, like it feels like you're on drugs. Like, what is that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I mean, like, honestly, after I did it, I mean, I'll be honest, like straight up, I've never done drugs, so I can't compare. But there is a lot of people who've done different forms of psychedelics who compare breathwork to doing psychedelics, who say they get the same high, the same feeling. And they're like in such a state of euphoria that I was like, and I do it. And I'm like, who needs drugs? Like, why would I ever do drugs? I just need to breathe for 30 minutes. Like,
you're an oxygen dealer. Okay, so that's the thing. That's the thing that people experience.
Yes, because you do like downright, like you're releasing more CO2 and you're taking in more oxygen. So you are getting this high, this euphoria. You get like this lightheadedness. You get like this tingling in your body. You get like this, like, that's what I mean. At the end, I really have to consciously, slowly bring people out of this, because if I said, okay, get up and stand up, like you literally would fall over, like legit, because you'd be lightheaded and disoriented, and you'd be like, I don't know, because it does affect that body because of how it affects the physical state of the body, not only the mental. But, people say like, I listen to Aubrey Marcus a lot, and he leads a lot of like breathwork things, and he's done everything under the sun in regards. He's done Aya 20 some times. He's done like he's done it all. But even he will say like sometimes his breathwork sessions are just as potent as like doing some of the psychedelics and doing that of like connecting yourself, getting in that like connection to your higher self, that euphoric state. And so, and it is just because of like what it did, the CO2 and oxygenation of our body. That's all it is.
And like, I just wonder if it's more, like psychedelics and stuff are about kind of like leaving the body, like going up into the, clouds in a sense. But when you really do intense breath work, you are tapping into your higher self. You are getting more in touch with spirit. And so I'm wondering if that's like, there's the same thing as like, your spirit first and then a body is what I believe. And so if you tap in more with the spirit and the body feels kind of abandoned, it does have this sensation of like, is anyone home? I'm feeling a little empty. That's so interesting.
I mean, I've like had some sessions where I'm like, whoa, I just went to like La La Land. I don't really know. And like for some people too, I always tell people like sometimes you'll go into such a meditative state, and when you come back, you're like, oh my gosh, they're still breathing. I'm not doing the breathing. I'm not doing the pattern. Like I got to start breathing again, which is fantastic because like literally you hit that like such deep meditative state that you're like not even like you have no control over like, oh yeah, and then you kind of like come more back to everything, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm breathing. Are they still breathing? Oh, yep, the session's still going on. I'll start breathing again. And so I tell people, I'm like, it's completely normal. And it happens all the time to people. And I'm like, oh yeah, because they just get in that such meditative state, and they're in, I'll say La La Land, like often whatever. And that's where they get clarity and downloads and everything. And then they kind of come on back.
I'm like, holy crap.
Yes.
Oh, well, I love it. I love what you do. I really hope this lands for the listeners. And if they do want to book something with you, would you mind just sharing your Instagram, your website, and then if you offer anything remotely or if it's all in person, all the things, please share.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram, and it transfers over on Facebook under Amy Cloute, and I'm on LinkedIn too. It's under Amy Cloute. Everything's under Amy Cloute. And yes, I do offer mainly virtual. So mainly virtual breathwork and Reiki sessions. I am starting to do some in-person. If you're in the Fort Collins, Northern Colorado area, about once or twice a month, I'm going to start holding some in-person breathwork sessions as a group, which is kind of fun because group energy is really like the energy really gets flowing, and it's a really neat, healing, like supportive energy to kind of be in. So, and this fall I'll be offering some a Reiki kind of a program that'll end. It'll be like kind of coming into alignment with yourself and how to live an aligned life through Reiki, where you get attuned to Reiki so you can do Reiki on yourself to help realign and bring your body and yourself back to balance. And using integrating breathwork into that as well. So
I love that. I'm excited to hear more about that.
And of course, you can find me at the retreat with you.
Yeah, that's gonna be, I cannot wait. I really am counting down the weeks. But just so you guys listening, Amy is AMY, and Cloute, her last name is CLOUT. Her business is Soulfully Grounded. I highly recommend her. I believe in this work fully. And don't underestimate the power of virtual. A lot of people get a little hung up on that, but it really does still have an impact. Reiki can be done from a distance. It works. It's real. And of course, breath work would be with a screen, so you do get to see. And
I'll be honest, like I kind of felt because, prior to, pandemic and stuff, where everything really was virtual and whatnot, like, old paradigm of doing Reiki and breathwork was always had to be in person. And so even personally, when I was trained, that's what it was. And I kind of had my hesitations, and I've actually found so many people actually have a better session almost, because they get to be in the comfort of their space. They're
Mm-hmm.
in their home with their smells, their things. They get to be in their jammies, and then they get to be in that and like have, instead of, necessarily being in person, a lot of people have almost a more healing, like a healing experience. And then when the session's over, they get that space to be in their own space, to really integrate and
Yes.
reflect and journal and just be with themselves. Not that I want to discourage in person either, but it's not like you're then getting in your car. Cause I know for myself, sometimes I get in my car and I'm like, holy cow, I'm like trying to process, trying to drive home. And so for a lot of
Yeah.
people, it is kind of this nice, like nice space that you get the time to create this space in your own comfort and be in your own space. And then that moment afterwards to really sit with everything and integrate. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've actually come to like be a huge, huge fan of virtual. And I've just seen like so much like transformation occur through that, which even surprised me in the beginning. I won't lie.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. My training for mediumship, I did I this blows people's minds, and it kind of blows my mind too. But I people would call in, and literally my teacher let me ask their first name, where they were in the world, and how the weather was. And then I had to just go. And it made it very, I mean, it was like boot camp, but what happened was I got so familiar with my space, my auric field, that the minute something else came in, I knew that then that was message from spirit. And so when someone comes into my space physically, a lot of psychic stuff starts happening. And so
Mhm.
I perceive a lot more, but sometimes it's not all necessary. Like if you just had maybe an argument with your daughter or something, and then you came, that could still be lingering, to where when I'm working on virtual, I'm already tapped in, and it's more clarity. It's
Mhm.
crazy. And
Yep.
you wouldn't think this. You would think it would be the opposite, but I have to agree with you. The virtual readings seem to be a lot more potent.
Yep.
So I want to mention that, because I think some people are like, oh, I only want in person.
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
well, that's that's okay. Let me explain why I don't do that.
Right. Oh, 100%, 100%. And like I said,
Yeah.
I agree too. Just, I feel like my sense of like intuitiveness and everything, because I'm like in my space and I have no distraction from anything else. And
Hmm.
so I just kind of really get in that vortex
Yeah.
of like
Service.
reading, like, yeah, reading them, like intuitively leading, guiding. I'm so much more like sometimes attuned, like you said, versus them being in my space and vice versa.
Yeah,
So
it gets more noisy. And so yes, more information's coming through, but then more discernment is
mhm.
required. And I mean, there's a lot of factors, but at this point in my career, I have to say that this is something that seems to be working. So,
Yeah.
well,
Awesome.
Amy, cheers.
Cheers so
Oh,
much for having me.
of
Let me
course. I
share.
adore you, and I'm excited to work with you in September. And I really hope that this episode lands for people and they at least got a little bit more knowledge around breath work,
Yeah.
what Reiki is, why it works. And then, if all goes well, you'll be getting some phone calls.
Yes.
All right. Well, have a beautiful Friday. Thank you all for listening. Amy, I love you. And we will see you in the
Thank
next
you.
episode.
Thank you.